Hello, shall we start, sir?
Yes, we can start.
Yeah, okay. So, hello everyone and welcome all. I am RG from the team of GISA Council. I welcome you all to the webinar for Risk Assessment and Practical Approach. GISA Council is a non-for-profit organization aiming to empower individuals and organizations through the promotion of skills training and certification. GISA Council promotes various training and certification programs like Associate Information Systems Auditor, CISA, CSUM, C-Risk Prep Training, ISO 27001 Lead Auditor, Associate Cybersecurity Analyst, CISSP Prep Training, GDPR Specialist, and many more. Within 1 year of establishment, GISA Council has educated and trained 25,000 plus professionals from 55 countries, more than 125 global enterprises, out of which 30 plus are of Fortune 500 companies. Thank you for your trust on GISA Council. Mr. Sachin Hisaria is the esteemed speaker for today's webinar. Best wishes to all the participants. Sachin sir, over to you. Thank you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Perfect. So, first of all, very good morning, good evening, good afternoon, as per your respective time zone, guys. Let me share my screen and let me know once the screen is visible to you. Is it visible, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So, guys, in our today's webinar, we will be going to discuss about risk management. Okay. So we'll discuss very much in a detail what is a risk management, how organizations would be conducting a risk assessment activity along with the practical example. We'll also try to understand how once the risk has been identified, what are the risk response methodologies available with the organization to respond to those risks. Okay. So this is all we will be going to discuss in our today's webinar. And before we start our discussion, first we will understand what is the risk. Okay. So when we say risk, guys, risk stand for a potential event that may impact to the entity is considered as a risk. Okay. So probability of happening something and multiplying by the resulting cost or benefit, if it does, it is considered as a risk. Now whenever we talks about risk, along with risk we also need to understand two more things, that is vulnerability and threat. So these two terminologies are very important whenever we are talking about the risk. So one is known as a vulnerability. Okay. When I say a vulnerability, vulnerability stands for weakness into the system. So for example, guys, if you have joined this session from a laptop, okay, and in your laptop, suppose antivirus is not installed, endpoint protection applications is not being installed. So what is this? This is a weakness of your system. This is a weakness of your system. Now, this weakness can be exploited by the hacker. Suppose if they install any ransomware in your computer, suppose if they execute any malicious code in your laptop, so that is called as a threat. So, threat is something that can exploit the weakness. Threat is something that can exploit the weakness, it is considered as a threat. So when organizations would be doing their risk management, when they would be conducting a risk assessment activity, at that time they will try to identify the risk. Okay. Risk they will try to identify when they know the vulnerability and threat. which are being associated with the particular process or with the particular asset. Once they get to know about the threat and vulnerability, then they form a risk statement, and accordingly, risk can be calculated with the help of formula, which is probability multiplied by the impact. Now, this particular slide seems to be little bit theoretical. You might have already known all these definitions. You might already know all these terminologies as well. But in our today's session, we'll try to assess that how risk is calculated actually with the help of some risk register which we are using in the practical life. Okay, we'll come to that part also, but first we'll just discuss it theoretical concept, and then we will go to the practical part also. Okay, now let me just tell you that how the risk assessment activity is being carried out. What is the step-by-step process of doing a risk assessment, and then I will show you the template so that it would be easy for you to understand and easy for you to retain as well. Now, when I talk about the risk assessment, guys, so first, organization will decide whether they want to do the risk assessment asset wise or whether they want to do the risk assessment process wise. So first they will identify which all assets and which all processes are critical in the company. Once with the help of vulnerability, they will form a risk statement here. Now, once the risk statement has formed, they will do the impact analysis. Will guys in the impact analysis, they will see that what is the financial impact.
Sachin, you're losing your voice.
Okay. Oh. Am I audible, guys?
No,
Yeah, your voice is cracking, Sachin.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Still the
No,
same.
it's still breaking your voice.
Inform me. Hello. Hello, guys. Hello. Hello. Am I audible? Can you confirm me in a chat or unmute?
Yeah, this is
Yes. Yeah.
This is better. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So what I was telling you guys, we were discussing about the risk assessment activity. Okay, that how the risk assessment is being carried out. So two steps we have discussed. First, we identify the critical assets and the processes. And based on this identification, we identify a relevant risk. Now we have to do the impact analysis. Suppose we know the assets and processes which are critical. After knowing that asset, now we need to see that what is an impact of a particular threat and vulnerability. So we try to see impact, like what is a financial impact, what is a operational impact, what is a legal impact, what is an impact on our reputation, and accordingly we calculate an average impact value for that particular asset or for that particular process. Now, after doing an impact analysis, we calculate a risk and we will try to prioritize the risk.
I think we are losing you again. Unable to hear you.
Risk, that which risk needed to be treated first, and based on our prioritization we prepare a detailed risk treatment plan that how we can treat that particular risk. So now again this is also a little bit theoretical, that how the risk assessment is being conducted step-by-step process. Now, guys, we'll try to understand the same process with the help of some practical example. I would be showing you the risk register.
Sachin sir, your voice is breaking again.
We're not able to hear you continuously.
Audio is lost in between. Sorry, I need to change my network. Is it now? Am I audible now?
No,
Hello,
Sachin,
am I
still
audible?
your voice is breaking.
No, Sachin, you are losing your voice.
It's raining, heavy raining, and I am using two. Okay, yeah, let me rejoin then. Just give me a minute. Yeah, am I audible now, guys?
Yeah, no, something better.
Yes,
Now,
Sachin.
okay, perfect. So let me share the screen again. Okay. Yeah, so I was telling you that now we'll discuss about a risk assessment with the help of practical example. So guys, can you tell me what is the first step of the risk assessment activity? First, what we will be doing? First, we will
Set identification.
Identification of
Identify the
assets.
critical assets
critical
or process.
assets. Okay, that is very important. First, we identify how many assets or processes which are there in the company, and that is too critical for our business. Okay. So now, for example, we have identified one of a critical asset, and that is to my server. Okay. That server is my critical asset. Okay. I have used this example in a lot of other webinar. Let's use another example, guys. So for example, guys, here also our critical asset which we are treating is an Oracle database instances where we are storing our data. Obviously, this is one of a very critical data, you may say, correct? This is a very critical asset for the company. Now, against this asset, there is one weakness. Okay, and what is that weakness? That company have allowed to employee that they can share the email outside the organization. So basically, outbound emails are permitted. Can you please tell me, guys, that against this particular weakness, okay, how this weakness can exploit, how someone can exploit this weakness? Tell me. Outbound emails are being permitted.
Sensitive data will be leaked out.
Sensitive data can be leaked out, correct, guys? All the critical sensitive data which is there in the company, that data can be leaked very easily because outbound emails are permitted. So now basically we have understood that, okay, this is my weakness, and this weakness can be exploited by someone in the term of data sharing, correct? Now we have identified that this is a threat, and this is the vulnerability, and this is the risk statement that allowing an outbound emails to domain other than organization authorized, that will encourage to intentional disclosure of information by an employee. This is my risk statement. Now, what is the third step, guys? First, we'll identify the critical assets and process. Second, we identify the risk. What is the third step? What is the third step?
Identify impact.
Perfect. Third is identify the impact. So after identifying the risk, we will do the impact analysis. Now, impact analysis will understand that what is the probability of occurrence of this threat and what is an impact. What is the legal impact? What is the business impact? What is the financial impact? What is an impact on the customer? Now, guys, all these values generally are being derived with the help of risk metrics. So, organization will also prepare their risk metrics. Okay, in the risk metrics, they will prescribe what is the meaning of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and accordingly they will put those values here. Now, as an auditor, suppose if you go there, am I audible? If you are sharing the
Yes,
card.
yes, you are.
Yes.
And my screen is visible?
Yes. Now I think
Visible. No?
I think
Perfect,
this
perfect.
time is disappeared now. Now it's
Okay.
visible.
Okay, okay. So I was telling you guys that, see, whenever you get this risk register, okay, especially as an auditor, okay, then try to see the impact value that is being prescribed by the company. Now here I will tell you one example, guys. Suppose you are doing an audit for a company on which regulator have specified the company to install the DLP. Now, in the impact analysis, the organizations have given the value 2. Okay, what value they have put in here? They have put in a 2. Now, 2 means what? I have to see in the impact category. 2 means very low impact. Now, suppose if it is a mandated by a regulator, then ideally the impact value should be 4 or 5, guys. Correct? 2 is not justified in this scenario. Correct, guys?
Are you
Excuse me,
showing
we can't see
something?
the
I can
screen,
only
please.
see the, yeah, I can only see the.
Okay. Let me reshare. That is why I have asked you. My screen is visible. Is it visible now, guys?
yeah, it is visible.
Visible? Everyone?
Yeah,
Yes,
now it is. Yeah.
Okay. So what I was telling you guys, this is my risk register, and in the risk register, we are at the impact analysis stage. Now, in the impact analysis, what risk we have discussed? We have discussed that outbound emails were permitted, which can lead to the leakage of sensitive data. Now, organization have done an impact assessment for the same. In the impact assessment, the first column that is there is a legal and regulatory impact. Now, in the legal and regulatory impact, they have put it the value as a 2. Now, suppose if you are auditing this particular company and if you get this risk register, so what you need to do is you need to see whether it is required by the regulator or not. Whether regulator have put it something in their circular, something in their requirement that company should have an appropriate control to protect the data. Nowadays, every regulator will write those statements in their circulars, in their requirements, that you need to have an appropriate control put in place to protect your data. Correct, guys? Now, suppose if the company, while doing a risk assessment, and in the risk assessment they have put it the legal and regulatory impact as a 2, obviously you will ask a risk team that what is the rationale of keeping it as a low. Because as per our understanding, guys, if it is mandated by the regulator and if you don't have implemented this control, what would be the ideal value here? Can you tell me? Either 4 or 5, guys.
4 and
Correct?
5.
4 and 5 make a
Yes.
sense here, because if it is specified by a regulator, that means it has a high impact or very high impact. So what I'm trying to tell you with the help of this example, whenever you are evaluating those kind of risk register, or whenever you are reviewing those register, try to see that what impact values have been prescribed by the company in the risk register. Now, obviously, there would be some subjectivity. I am not saying that it has to be 5 or it has to be 4. Some subjectivity. Now, if you are doing, you may put a 4. If I am doing, I may put a 5. There is some subjectivity, but there should not be a too much of difference. Like, I think 2 is not acceptable if it is a regulatory requirement. So try to see what impact value is being written in your risk register, whether company have considered some kind of reasonable assumptions while doing an impact assessment or not. Because based on your impact, based on your probability, your risk score is being calculated. Are you getting my point? Based on the impact and based on the probability, your risk score is being calculated. So suppose if they put the lesser value in the impact or probability, what will happen? The risk score will be reduced. And if the risk score would be reduced, the risk prioritization will change. And if the risk prioritization will change, the risk treatment plan will also change. So it is very important that we should focus on these values. Then accordingly, now what happened is, after this impact analysis, what is the next step? We have to prioritize the risk. So once we get to know all the risks which are there, accordingly we will prioritize. And the next step of the after the prioritization is the risk treatment. Now, risk can be treated using various methods. Okay. Let me just show you a couple of examples and you tell me which risk response methodology is being adopted in this particular scenario. Yeah. Am I audible?
अच्छा मैंने अभी पेमेंट कर दी है इसकी नेट की ना, तो ये प्लीज जरा खोल दें.
Sohil, you can mute yourself.
थैंक यू.
Okay, so let me just mute all. Okay. So guys, can you tell me which is this risk response methodology? So we are just assuming this person has to cross this particular river and he has to go from here to here. In the first option, what he is doing? Tell me. Is it a risk mitigation? Is it a risk acceptance or what it is? This is what? This is a, what is this, guys? This is a risk mitigation. The person has to go from here to here. So this is like a risk. Okay. So he is trying to mitigate this risk. Okay. The second option is what? Risk avoidance. So he has not decided to cross the river. That is what? That is a risk avoidance. And the third is what? Third is a risk acceptance. Third is what? Risk acceptance. So basically, organization also have to adopt, once they identify the risk, they also have to choose the appropriate risk response methodology. In majority of time, organization will try to mitigate the risk by applying some level of control. Now, can you please tell me, guys, in this particular scenario, where the outbound emails are being permitted, can you please tell me what would be the risk mitigation for this particular risk, or what would be the appropriate risk reduction for this particular risk? Any one of you tell me.
DLP.
DLP, correct. DLP stand for data leakage prevention, correct. So in DLP also we have a two type of DLP, guys, majorly. One is known as a network DLP and second is called as a host DLP. Network DLP will prevent the instances of data leakage when data is being traveled through the network. Okay. Host DLP will prevent the instances of data leakages from the host. Now you might be thinking, Sachin, please give me some example. Now, for example, guys, you have one critical document in your laptop and you are taking a printout of the same. If you have installed the network DLP cannot prevent this particular activity which has been done in the host machine of the user. correct? For that, you will require a separate DLP, which is called as a host DLP. So if you have a host DLP, then only you can prevent the user from printing some critical information. This is one example. Similarly, guys, nowadays you might have seen that even on the online meeting platform like a Zoom, like a Teams, it is allowed to everyone that they can share the data. Correct, guys? In a chat box, you can share the images. In some cases, you can share the files as well. So if you have installed only the network DLP, then it cannot prevent these data leakages. Similarly, guys, suppose if you transfer the data in through a pen drive or through any external drive, suppose you have taken an exception to allow the USB port in your laptop, and when you are transferring the data after taking an exception at that time, suppose if you transfer critical file, network DLP cannot prevent. So basically I want to tell you that whenever you talks about a DLP, you have to check whether both network DLP plus host DLP are being installed in all the endpoints. Okay, network DLP generally will install on the network itself, so it will automatically prevent all the kind of data leakages which are possible through a network. But in case of host DLP, you have to check whether it is being installed on all the host machine or not. Okay, so but basically this DLP will work as a risk mitigation or risk reduction for this particular identified risk. Now second is a risk avoidance. Now risk avoidance means what? Changing the strategies or business processes to avoid a risk. So basically here the process where the risk is being the process with which the risk is being associated, you have decided not to carry out that process. But in this scenario it is not possible, guys. You cannot say that now nobody will use the email, correct? Because uh, uh, like we cannot basically avoid this particular risk. There are few scenarios where we can avoid, but yeah, there are few processes for which you cannot avoid the risk. Okay, but in few cases you can avoid the risk. For example, guys, now if you are using a some end of support server, now can you please tell me what is the risk associated with this particular scenario? What is the risk associated with this particular scenario where organizations are using an end of support servers? Tell me.
Hacked. Easy to hack.
Vulnerability.
No support.
Yeah, vulnerability like those are vulnerable. Basically there would be no patch available from the vendor, no support available from the vendor. There are high chances that those servers can be hacked by a hacker. Now in this scenario, suppose if organizations have upgraded those server, then this particular response methodology will be considered as an avoidance, that we have avoided this particular risk. Okay, so this is a risk avoidance. Risk acceptance means decided to accept the risk in as is format. So whatever is there, that we have decided, we have agreed that okay, let's keep it the same. Okay, and whatever will happen we'll see. So that is an acceptance. And the next is a transfer. So in case of a risk transfer, whatever losses that has been occurred due to materializations of a risk, those losses will be beared by a third party. So this is considered as a risk transfer. So this all risk response methodologies are being available. Organization will choose an appropriate risk response methodology, and accordingly they will try to mitigate the risk. Now my next question to you guys, suppose organization have implemented a DLP here. Now I believe our risk score would be 0. Correct, guys? After implementation of DLP, our risk score would be 0. Yes or no?
No.
Why?
No.
Risk cannot be
Because
zero.
only minimize the risk.
Okay.
Let me minimize the risk. Correct.
So are we
There is a
saying that
residual
risk?
risk.
Yeah. Are we saying that risk cannot be mitigated 100%? Even
It
if
gives
yeah,
only the basic assurance, but not complete. Risk cannot be
eliminated basically, correct? Even
yes.
if you implement world's best control, even after implementing that, there is some risk which remains, and that risk is known as a
Residual risk.
risk.
Residual
And
risk.
what would be the risk response methodology for residual risk? We have to
Accept.
accept the risk. Okay. Whatever residual risk which would be there, we have to accept. For example, if after doing the risk assessment, we have implemented some control, after implementation of control, you can see that risk has been reduced. Earlier it was this, now it is this. And now organization will say that we have implemented best possible control. Even after implementing that, there is some risk which remains, and that will be considered as a residual risk, and we are ready to accept those risks. We are
According to
ready
their
to
risk appetite.
perfect. Now here guys, Sohil have mentioned about one terminology which is called as a risk appetite. Okay, what it is called is it is called as a risk appetite. So there are three terminology guys. One is known as a risk capacity. Okay, second is called as a risk appetite, and what is a third terminology? What is a third terminology guys? Third is called as a risk tolerance. Does any one of you know the difference between these three terminology? Capacity, appetite, and tolerance. Basically, what risk response methodology that we will adopt, it is very much depend on this three terminology. Okay. Tell me, any one of you, what is capacity, what is appetite, and what is a tolerance? Any one of you?
Appetite is something like, the ability to absorb.
Okay. Ability to absorb. Okay, perfect. Then what is a tolerance?
How much we can
Tolerate to handle.
tolerate the risk, right? Okay.
Maybe extreme limits.
Sorry.
RTO risk. Okay, something like that.
No, not like that.
How much we can tolerate the risk? How much?
Threshold
Accept
limits.
it. How much we can accept what happens to the outcome,
I think uncertainty, that is acceptable.
Okay. So let me put it in the another way. Let me give you some kind of non-technical example, and then we'll. Yeah, Anwar, tell me. You have raised your hand. You have raised your hand, Anwar. Was it by mistake? Okay. So tell me, Dhruv. Let's take one example here, Dhruv. I will be needing your help for the example.
Hello,
Okay.
it is a deviation. Tolerance is a
Very good.
deviation.
Perfect. Very good, Anwar. So, Dhruv, tell me, what is your favorite food?
I like to have sandwich.
So, for example, Dhruv like to have a sandwich. Okay. Now, let me explain you all these three terminology, guys. So, basically, do you know what is a normal appetite of Dhruv? Dhruv generally can eat up to 2 sandwich. This is his normal appetite. Okay. This is his normal appetite. He can eat up to 2 sandwiches. But suppose when Dhruv goes to any kind of restaurant or any kind of shop which is very famous for the sandwich. Okay. So for example, nearby to my house, there is one Om sandwich which is very famous for a sandwich. So when Dhruv visit to that particular shop, at that time he is ready to eat up to 3 sandwiches. So this is a tolerance. What is a tolerance, guys? Deviation from his normal appetite. Deviation from his normal appetite. See, organization cannot run without taking a risk. So we have decided that boss, our normal risk appetite is 1 lakh. We are ready to take a risk up to 1 lakh. This is my normal appetite. But now what is happening that there is one project in which the risk is more than my appetite. Okay. On that particular project, the risk is beyond an appetite, but we are also getting some more benefit in that project. So tolerance is what? Tolerance is deviation. So basically we will say that, okay, we can tolerate a risk up to 2 lakh. That is fine if we are getting some more benefit out of that project. So that is what? That is a tolerance. Now let's talk about capacity. So capacity is like a maximum amount of risk. Now in case of Dhruv cannot eat more than 4 sandwich. If Dhruv will eat more than 4 sandwich, he will vomit. So basically capacity is a maximum amount of risk that an enterprise can take without its continued existence being called into the question. So that is a maximum. So I'm saying that I cannot go beyond 5 lakh. So this is what? This is my capacity. This is what? This is my maximum capacity. Now, whenever organization would be deciding on the risk response methodology, what to choose, they will consider all these 3 statements. Now, for example, if there is any risk which is my appetite, so there is no harm in accepting those risks, guys, correct? If there is any risk which is below your appetite, then you can accept those risks, correct? So in the as a part of risk management, organization will also defines their risk appetite level, risk tolerance level, and risk capacity level. You can go and you can ask to them that what are those levels, okay? And accordingly, they will try to respond to those risks. If something is beyond the appetite, they will try to mitigate, okay? And obviously, like nothing can go beyond the capacity. So yeah, these are the 3 terminology. I hope now it is clear to everyone. Is it clear? Appetite, capacity, and tolerance is clear to everyone. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, Sachin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
very clear.
Perfect. So this is about the capacity, appetite, and tolerance, guys. So as we discussed, appetite is defined as an amount of risk on a broad level that entity is willing to accept in pursuant of its business. Tolerance is what? It is a deviation from the risk appetite, which is not desirable, but known to be sufficiently below the capacity. Okay. So again, one more example. If you are driving a car, obviously there is a risk. If you are driving in the range of 0 to 70, that is a normal amount of risk. If you are going beyond 70 up to 80, that is a deviation. Beyond 80 or 100 is not acceptable. So this is about this. Now, basically, guys, this is what all about your risk assessment activity. We have discussed that how organizations are doing a risk assessment. Okay. What is the step-by-step processes they are following to conduct this risk assessment? How they are documenting this risk registers? Okay. And as an auditor, if you get a chance to review their risk register, what are the points you have to consider? This is all we have discussed. Now, let me tell you one more thing. Okay. That is about an RTP. RTP stands for risk treatment plan. Okay. Risk treatment plan. Now, what happens sometimes, guys? Suppose you have conducted a risk assessment. After conducting a risk assessment, you have identified 50 risks. Not necessary that all the risk can be treated in a one go. Correct? Not necessary. There sometimes there is a dependency on the other team. Sometimes there is a business dependency. Sometimes there is a financial dependency. We don't have a budget. We don't have a manpower. Correct? So there can be the n number of reason by which the risk cannot be mitigated. So out of 50 risks, you have mitigated the 40 risk. 10 risks are still open. Then what generally organization will do, guys? Organization will prepare a risk treatment plan for those risks which are not being treated as of now. It is known as a open risk. So organization will say that we have highlighted this risk. We know that this particular risk exists in our company. Okay. We are planning to mitigate this risk. So there has to be a documented plan for the same, where they will mention that, okay, as of now, this is open, but in near future, we will definitely mitigate this particular risk. And this is a date by which we will mitigate this particular risk. And very important thing, there has to be a necessary approvals from the respective department. Whenever you find any RTP, you have to ask for the approvals as well, whether it is approved by the risk team, whether it is approved by the information security team, IS team, IT team, now data privacy team also, my compliance team also, correct? So all the necessary approvals should be there. Okay. And you also have to see the trend. So basically, in some company, what is happening, for whatever control they can't implement it, they always have a tendency to take an RTP. Let's take an RTP. Let's take an RTP. Now, if you see some increasing pattern in the number of open risk, for example, last year open risk was 15, now this year 30, again next year 45, and it is going 70. So if you see some trend in the open risk, that open risk are being increasing day by day, then obviously you have to ask, this is a red flag. It means that you are not mitigating anything for each and everything. You are taking an RTP, correct? This is also not right process. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that as a part of risk assessment, you also need to see how many open risks which are there in the company, and what are the plan of action to mitigate those risks in the future, and what are the approvals that is being taken by a company to document and to accept those risks. Okay. So this is all about your risk management, guys. Actually, we have discussed the process, and we have also discussed the step-by-step process, that how it is being conducted. Now, if you have any query, any doubt related to risk management, you can ask, guys. Anything that you want to discuss regarding the risk management, you can ask. Any
Hi,
query?
myself is Anwar here.
Yeah, Anwar, please tell me.
Hello.
Yeah, Anwar, you are
Yeah,
audible.
actually, there is a there's two set of process to calculate risk, because I have bombarded by several questions in my organization itself, because one is CIA C plus I plus A, right? One is C into I into A,
Mhm.
right? So what is the actual
Yeah.
methodology with both result the same, or is there any deviation between two?
No, no. So basically what happened, Anwar, is basically you are talking about those CIA values. So when we are calculating this particular risk, we also need to map. See, are you talking about this confidentiality, integrity, and availability mapping? Are you talking about this one, Anwar? You are on mute.
Yes, I'm talking about a risk, like risk calculation, right? So how we calculating
Yeah,
risk, right? So for
yeah,
calculation
yeah.
of risk, there is a two method. Even if we have to
That is
multiple of exposure factor also.
Yeah, yeah. So that is quantitative and qualitative, Anwar. Okay. To calculate a risk, we have a two option. Either we can choose a quantitative. In case of quantitative, we would be using some numbers. So for example, here you can see we have used a certain number. In some cases, we can also go for a qualitative risk assessment. Now, in case of qualitative risk assessment, we would not be using a numbers. Instead of number, we will use the subjective parameters like a high, medium, low. Okay.
Yeah, high, medium, low,
To
critical.
calculate the risk.
That's okay because I'm really
Correct.
I'm
Yeah.
concerned about the quantitative.
Yeah. So then in case of quantitative, see, this is how it is being calculated. You have to put some numbers. As we discussed, we have to see the risk. Against the risk, we have to assess that, suppose, for example, this risk, whether is there any regulatory requirement, then accordingly, I will put a number for legal and regulatory. Now, suppose if this particular risk has any impact on business, so I will put a number for the business. And for this, what I will do, I will prepare my metrics like this. Okay.
Yeah,
We'll prepare
I
our
got your
metrics
point.
like this.
Yeah, got your point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got your point. But the real challenge is, brother, is like, first, like, where is like, asset based risk. So once you define the asset or list an asset of your organization, then based on asset, you can, populate, identify your risk.
Perfect. Perfect.
Second is the issue based risk. So the challenge with the issue based risk, that you need to find the reason of the issues, what kind of impact and what don't think. So basically, normally each auditor will like, normally this practice will basically happen. Most of the implementer use asset based risk.
Yeah, so it could be asset based, it could be process based also, Anwar. Okay. And in some company, I have seen where they are doing a department wise as well. Okay. So it is like completely their choice how they want to do it. We just have to see their process, and accordingly, if we feel that some risks are not being captured, and if some risks are not being properly calculated, we have to just highlight that particular thing.
I agree, and also we should approach a hybrid kind of. We can include asset also. We can include
Yeah, process
like,
also.
as you mentioned, like,
Process.
issues or
Yeah.
different categories. Yeah, that will be a better approach.
Yeah.
Sachin, in
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Christian.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sachin, Rohan
Yeah,
this
yeah,
side.
Christian. Just a minute. Let me just come.
Sachin, in
Yeah.
continuation, my doubt is in
Okay.
continuation
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
previous
Please,
doubt.
please, please,
So
please.
I'll just quickly wrap
Yeah.
it up.
Yeah. Please.
So you just mentioned about the quantitative and the qualitative
Yeah.
assessment. Can you just throw a little more light on the point that would there not be a disparity between a Rohan assessing a risk and giving it an impact score, and probably Sachin assessing that same risk and giving it some
Yeah.
other score? I understand the fact that it is going to be somewhere in the range, not
Perfect.
drastically different, but
Perfect.
still, is there not going to be a little bit of deviation, which I suppose should be acceptable, or how is it?
Yeah, that is perfectly acceptable, Rohan. This is a normal practice. Now, for example, in all this kind of activity, those activities are subjective. Even if the audit is very subjective, Rohan, if you are doing an audit and if I am doing an audit, correct? We both are human beings, correct? You have certain assumptions, I have certain assumptions. When you are doing an audit, maybe you will comply something which I feel not comply, or there would be some kind of subjectivity, Rohan, if we talk about sampling, if we talk about a risk assessment, because there is nothing like a benchmark where we can say that it has to be 3, now it has to 4, because it varies processes to processes, business to business, and their environment, and lot of other factors, Rohan. So subjectivity in this particular thing is very much acceptable, but yeah, there should not be a drastical difference as we discussed.
Like the example you mentioned, that in case if
Yeah.
there's no DLP and then still it is under a category of 2
Yeah.
or something,
Then this is not
that is a point of a question.
perfect. That is a definitely point of questions, because it is not matching. Like there is a too much of difference.
Perfect. That answers my query. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, Christian, tell me.
So can you just give a small explanation on inherent and residual risk?
Yeah. So basically, now basically inherent risk. So there is one terminology, Christian, which is called as a audit risk. Okay, and generally audit risk is being calculated considering the inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk. Now, inherent risk, as the name suggests, it is a risk which activity possesses, and it is also known as a gross risk. The risk which is there before the controls are being applied, it is called as an inherent risk. Now, for example, Christian, I am giving you two scenarios. You tell me that in which scenario there is a high inherent risk. Okay, I'm just giving you two scenarios. So you have one company, Christian, which is SHN company. SHN company is a large MNC which has a multiple branches across the countries. Okay, so India, US, Canada. This company is also a stock market listed company. Okay, this is one company. Now, on the another hand, Christian, you have another company which is EBC and company. This is a small company, not listed company. Okay, like not listed on a stock market. So, out of these two company, in which company inherent risk is high? SHN company or EBCN company?
SHN company, because like the companies in different countries also.
Okay.
So legal and compliance. Yeah.
Perfect. So basically, when you have calculated the inherent risk, what you have considered, you have thought about the processes, correct? You have thought about its size. So that is what the inherent risk, correct? You have answered question without knowing their control environment, correct? Without considering what level of control they have implemented. So that is what the inherent risk that activity possesses, risk that is there in those kind of business. So that is what the inherent risk. Okay. Okay, Christian, is it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, Sachin. Sachin, I have a question.
Please tell me.
Sachin, basically, I am working for a bank, and where I usually prepare a risk assessment at the beginning of each year.
Okay.
What problem I usually face, that every department or you can say that every function have a different set of risk and risk family. So it's very difficult to put that these department into one model or one risk register, because every department have a different set of different kind of risk applicable. So could you help me out? How can we deal with the situation? Like you gave example of outbound emails, but there are certain departments in
where
any
it is allowed.
organization. Exactly, and their nature of function allowed, like they have to frequently deal with a client which is outside the organization. So they frequently communicate with those clients. So if you keep them all in a
one bucket, then it is not a true.
How can we eliminate?
Yeah, I got your point. So basically, as we discussed, risk assessment can be done asset wise, process wise, and a department or process wise also. Okay, department or area wise. So basically, what I would suggest you in this area, whenever you are doing a risk assessment, do it department wise. I've seen a lot of companies who are doing this activity department wise. So basically, we can compare now. Like for example, on a one side, I have marketing department. Marketing department has to deal with a lot of customers. They have to interact with a lot of clients which are outside my domain. Now, if I put a DLP restrictions over there, then it will unnecessarily create too much of alerts. Correct? So basically, in order to mitigate this, what we are doing, Sohil, I've seen some company which do the risk assessment and purely department wise, they make a separate risk assessment sheet for each of the department, so that when we are reviewing the risk sheet at the periodical interval, it would be very easy to assess and to update those registers. If you don't do it department wise, I agree with you. You have to face a lot of challenges to put those risks into a single register. Yeah.
Yeah, because every department have a different set of functions. So
Perfect.
if we get an holistic view, so we will be unable to find or
Yeah,
identify the risk
correct.
priority.
Perfect. And it will not do the justice as well. So
Exactly.
yeah, you can do this one basically. Okay. Perfect, guys. Any other query, any other doubt from you? Perfect. I have one announcement for all of you guys. So we at a GISA Council are launching a batch of AISA, which is an Associate Information System Auditor. So basically, the objective of this particular course is to give you the practical approach about how audit is being conducted in a real life. So sometime what is happening, guys, that we are taking a certification, we are CISA certified, we are CISM certified, or any other kind of certification, but sometime because of some reason we are not getting the practical exposure of this particular field. So with the help of AISA, we are trying to bridge the gap between the theory and practical. So basically, this course is very much practical. Like we have conducted our webinar today. In a webinar, I've just taken a small topic of a risk management. Okay. Similarly, in our AISA program, also we have a detailed, topics regarding an IT and IS audit. So if you are interested for the same, maybe you can reach out to the GISA team to do the registration, guys. Okay, so this is an announcement from my side. And yeah, any other query, any other doubt before we wind up?
What is the prerequisite? What is the prerequisite for attending this course?
No
As a theory?
prerequisite, Bhaskar. Basically, if you are interested in ITIS audit, if you are someone who are passionate about information system auditing and all those stuff, you can attend. Basically, in this course, I will try to explain everything from a scratch. So even if someone who is not from ISIT audit background, they can attend to the course and they can kind of get the relevant experience and exposure for this areas.
Okay, I was attended the AISA course when first or second batch Rajesh sir was there. And what
Okay.
is the next course? Shall I?
So basically, after that, it got changed, Mahesh. There, like in
Yeah,
the first,
yeah,
in
yeah.
first
I
it
heard.
was too much of theory, and
Mm.
like now I made it too practical. Like I don't think that there is much sense of discussing theory because any whichever way
Mhm.
nowadays everyone is reading those theories in the books, in the certification, in the ISO, in CISA. So it doesn't
Correct.
make any sense to repeat those stuff. It is better that we discuss some practical challenges, some practical case study, which
Mm-hmm.
make a better sense actually.
Okay.
Uh,
Then I want completely vulnerabilities side, low vulnerabilities and pen test side. Is there any course particular for that?
For VAPT, you have to see some other, Mahesh. Like if you are looking for the VAPT where you want to do some hands-on training on the machine to identify the vulnerabilities and all, for that
Mm.
maybe you have to look for some other VAPT practical course that will help you to do that.
Okay. Is
Can
there
you share the
is there any
Sachin,
GISA particular
Yeah,
that course?
I have to check. I am not sure. Maybe check with the GISA team. They will guide you for this.
Uh, okay, sir.
can you
Yeah,
share the content of this course?
yeah, Srinivas. I will upload this on the YouTube. I will upload this on a YouTube, Srinivas. So those who want to get this particular session recordings, guys, you will found those on my YouTube channel.
Sachin,
Yeah,
I know the question and answer hour has passed by. Can I just put in one doubt from my end?
yeah, please, Rohan.
Thank you. So if you could just briefly explain the difference between vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Just on
Yeah,
an
yeah, I will tell you. So basically, Rohan, what happened? Vulnerability means what? Weakness, correct? So
any
as a part
loophole,
of
right?
vulnerability assessment, we just identify what is the weakness in your system. Okay, we'll not exploit those weakness. We'll just identify the weakness. For example, you are living in a house and your door is open. This is what? This is a weakness. So I have done a VA assessment and I have mentioned, Rohan, your house is open. My job is done. That is what the vulnerability assessment. But suppose you have asked me, Sachin, along with VA, can you do the PT? Now what I will do, when I will know that, okay, your house door is open, this is a weakness. Now I will enter to your house and I will try to, do something. Maybe I will do a theft. I will see what is a high value item in your house, and accordingly I will say that I have theft these two items. So this is what? This is a penetration testing where after identifying the weakness, I have exploited that. That is what? That is a PT. Okay. So VA stands for identification of weakness, and penetration testing is actually exploiting those weaknesses.
That clears it very much. Just a small point on this. Can we conclude it in a way that both of them are intended towards vulnerability, like like getting the vulnerability in place, like we
Yeah.
should
So
know about the
basically,
vulnerability.
in the VA you identify, only identify, and in a PT you identify plus exploit.
Okay, okay, yeah. Sound that clears the doubt. Thank you so much.
Okay,
You
guys.
can just add, this also. I think vulnerability is a planned one and PT is unplanned one.
Yeah,
PT
yeah,
can
Is that
also
all?
be planned. PT, I
yeah, yeah.
suppose,
Like,
can also be planned.
yeah, companies do,
They
appoint
do
for,
deliberate penetration testings, yes.
yeah, like there is an extra black
we
box,
we
white
could we
box.
could say in this case that vulnerability could be known or unknown. Probably at times we
Yeah,
also know the vulnerabilities, and then
yeah, which
also
are there.
we
Correct,
do the
correct.
true,
Perfect.
true.
You're right. Okay, guys, that is all from my side. Then, bye bye. Take care. Thank you so much for your time. See you in some other webinars. Till then, bye bye.
Thank you so much, Sachin. Really helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sachin.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sachin.
sir.
Thank you so much, Sachin.